Our school teacher was a huge racist. So we rebelled. When we returned to school for the new school year, it wasn't long until the gossip started to spread around school that there were a few new teachers. A French teacher, a science teacher, a history teacher and a maths teacher. It wasn't long before the gossip mill started focusing on the maths teacher, due to him being an entitled piece of crap. The gossip started out that he would expect 7th grade students to understand university-level mathematics and would say that if you cannot understand that much at this age then you wouldn't get anywhere in life. Pretty soon, the gossip turned to the teacher being prejudiced. Sure, there was some prejudice in the school between students at the time, but that was mild compared to what this teacher started doing. During class registration, the teacher would skip asking if black kids were in class, or ask if the kid is there, look at the kid, then mark the kid absent. I even saw the teacher refuse entry to an Asian student and told her that she's not his student and that there's no point in him teaching her. Even other students that were not obviously of foreign descent were demeaned. Stuff like when a student would ask a question he would just sigh and tell him or her that there's no point in answering that question because they wouldn't learn anything from the answer. As the teacher started settling into his job, or lack of it, complaints rolled into the main office. However, nothing happened to discipline the teacher. Several students even said that when they went to the reception desk to hand in a complaints form, they watched as the receptionist would lay it onto a large pile of what looked like other complaints forms. There was the sound of a shredder going on in plain sight. After a month of complaints and nothing happening, the entire school population was getting fed up. Even the school bullies were shocked at what was happening and were siding with the other students. They even put a hold on bullying their victims. Then all of a sudden, the entire student population rallied. At first it was a boycott on going to this nightmare teacher's lessons. When the headmaster asked why students weren't going to his lessons and was told why, he wasn't fazed. When nightmare teacher was asked why his students were not going to his lessons, his response was something along the lines of, they're just idiots that don't want to learn. No point trying to teach them. After another week of boycotting his lessons and nothing happening, the rest of the maths lessons started getting boycotted. This resulted in the other maths teachers asking the nightmare teacher to teach properly but were shrugged off, blaming the students again. After several more days, us students simply raided the nightmare teacher's classroom and moved chairs into other classes where we continued our education the best that we could. Then the nightmare teacher was assigned to patrol during break times. His entitlement and pure prejudice showed yet again. We had a fenced area which we called the tennis courts, but were basically a multi-purpose area for physics education. Well, if some students brought a ball so they could have a quick game of 5A-side football and the teacher saw that certain students were playing, then he'd kick them off the courts with threats of detention, while saying that they're stealing British sport. Or when students were lined up for the cafeteria he would move foreign descents to the back of the lines and refuse entry to every student until they moved. Then all of a sudden, at the end of one day, there was a crowd in the staff car park. The next morning, the gossip about the nightmare teacher is that every tire on his car was deflated. Not slashed, just that every tire let down. Must have taken him ages to pump them back up. However, this resulted in a report going around the school that the vandals will be caught and punished. However, how could they do that? Even though there were CCTV cameras watching the area, how can black and white video pick out certain students in a sea of 200 plus students in the exact same school uniform? Well, the nightmare teacher mainly accused foreign descents of doing that, but the student gossip quietly spread that it was actually the bullies that did it. None of the students were going to rat them out to the staff. Well, the teacher didn't slow down in blaming certain students and telling others that they're idiots that won't have a future. A few days later, there was a request going around quietly that students return to school for 6 p.m. for something fun. The day after, the nightmare teacher returned to his car, smiled when he saw that his tires were fine and climbed in. However, he struggled to start his car until there was a loud bang and the car revved up a storm. Several students laughed. Apparently, his exhaust got clogged but the clog didn't hold. Yet again, reports from the school said that the vandals will be punished. The nightmare teacher continued to blame certain students and demeaning others. By now, the local newspaper had been told about the nightmare teacher, and when the newspaper came to learn more, the school told them that it's just students picking on a teacher that they don't like. So this only ended up with a half-paged article the following week saying just that. Nothing about what was actually going on. This angered the student population more. Then another request for a 6 p.m. meetup. The next day, nightmare teacher arrived at his car only to find that his tires had been let down again. But that wasn't the end of it. When he plugged his tire pump into the cigarette lighter in one of his tires, he found that the pump wouldn't turn on. He sat in the driver's seat and started screaming that his battery must be dead. That was only half of it. When he popped the hood, he screamed even more. Apparently every cable and half the pipes had been unplugged. Not only that, but the rubber timing belt had been cut. His exhaust was also well and truly clogged this time. This time the main office said that the entire school has detention and no one is going home for an hour after school every day unless the vandals come forward. Well, this didn't go down well. How can so few staff stop the entire student population of over 500 from mobbing out of entrances? Even closing gates wouldn't work, as eventually there were threats of setting classrooms on fire, which would mean on health and safety grounds, they would be forced to evacuate the school. The following week, some people in suits arrived and an investigation started. First they interviewed the staff from top down. At first they were getting told that it's just students at fault, but as they moved down, the teachers started telling them what was happening. Then it was the students' turn to be interviewed. Well, they just entered random classes and asked the entire class questions. The following week, the nightmare teacher never returned. They couldn't get a replacement in time, so for the rest of the year, there was a substitute maths teacher.